Depending on Krishna, an essential subject from Vinaypedia. Depending on Lord Krishna, God's name, for one's protection and sustenance is one of the principles of complete surrender to God. Krishna has stated in the Bhagavad Gita that he will protect his surrendered devotee, maintaining what he has and providing what he lacks. To the degree one depends on Krishna, to that degree the Lord protects him. A Brahmana, a person who works as per the directives of the religious scriptures without expecting money or any other kind of material gain, depends on Krishna for all his material needs, and consequently Krishna provides them. But a devotee does not bother Krishna for any material shortcoming. He only asks for service to God, because his only business is to please Krishna. Consequently, Krishna becomes pleased with him, and as he cannot reciprocate with the service attitude of such a devotee, he gives himself to that devotee. Thus, a pure devotee of Krishna depends completely on his mercy, begging for his service, and in return gets a personal relation with Krishna. Srila Prabhupada's books, lectures, conversations and letters offer a comprehensive presentation of this essential subject as seen in the Vinay quotes depending on Krishna category. An introduction from his books is given below in the following 10 quotes. Quotes from Srila Prabhupada's books. A pure devotee of an Arya is never afraid of any material danger. There are many examples of devotees such as Praldama Arya, who was tortured by his father but was not at all afraid, although he was only a 5-year-old boy. Therefore, following the examples of Ambrama Arya and Praldama Arya, a devotee should learn how to tolerate all such awkward positions in this world. Devotees are often tortured by non-devotees, yet the pure devotee, depending fully on the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is never disturbed by such inimical activities. Armad Bh Gavatam 9.4. 47. Being disgusted with family life, one separates from the family by divorce or some other means. If one has to separate, why not separate willingly? Systematic separation is better than forced separation. Forced separation cannot make anyone happy, but by mutual consent or by the Vedic arrangement one must separate from his family affairs at a certain age and fully depend on Krishna. This makes one's life successful. Armad Bh Gavatam 5.13. 8. The source of our income is not actually the source of our maintenance. Every living being from the great Brahm down to an insignificant ant is being maintained by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ekoba and Yovidad Tkmn. The one Supreme Being, Krishna, maintains everyone. Our so-called source of income is our own choice only. If I wish to be a hunter, it will appear that hunting is the source of my maintenance. If I become a Brahma and completely depend on Krishna, I do not conduct a business, but nonetheless my maintenance is supplied by Krishna. Kaitanya Karatam Ta, Madhya LL 24.257. If one always remains a servant of Krishna and engages everything in his service, one is accepted as Javan Mukta, a liberated soul, even during his lifetime within the material world. Generally liberation takes place after one gives up this body, but one who lives according to the example of Pithuma Arya is liberated even in this lifetime. In Krishna consciousness the results of one's activities depend on the will of the Supreme Person. Indeed, in all cases the result is not dependent on one's own personal dexterity but is completely dependent on the will of the Supreme. Armad Bh Gavatam 4.22. 51. A Krishna Bhakta has no desire for his own personal benefit. He is completely protected by the Supreme. Avo Yarakib Krishna Vivi Sa Pilana. Bhaktivinoda H. Kura says that he is desireless because Krishna will give him protection in all circumstances. It is not that he expects any assistance from Krishna. He simply depends on Krishna just as a child depends on his parents. The child does not know how to expect service from his parents, but he is always protected nevertheless. Kaitanya Karatam Ta, Madhya LL 19.149. Lakam Dev advises all devotees who approach the Lord with material desires that according to her practical experience, the Lord is Kamadeva, and thus there is no need to ask him for anything material. She says that everyone should simply serve the Lord without any motive. Since the Supreme Personality of Godhead is sitting in everyone's heart, he knows everyone's thoughts, and in due course of time he will fulfill all desires. Therefore let us completely depend on the service of the Lord without bothering him with our material requests. Armad Bh Gavatam 5.18. 21. One should depend only on the causeless mercy of the Lord for deliverance and not even slightly on one's own strength. That is the perfect position of a Krishna-conscious person. The The Lord is everyone's friend, but he is especially friendly to the surrendered soul. The simple process, therefore, is that a conditioned soul should remain surrendered to the Lord, and the Lord will give him all protection to keep him out of the clutches of material contamination. Ahmad Bh Gavatam 4.7. 30. Victory is always with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As for the subordinate living entities, they fight under the arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Victory or defeat is not actually theirs. It is an arrangement by the Lord through the agency of material nature. Pride in victory, or moroseness in defeat, is useless. One should fully depend on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is responsible for the victory and defeat of all living entities. Ahmad Bh Gavatam 6.12. 7. Real renunciation means perfect dependence on God. Every living being is dependent on someone else because he is so made. Actually, everyone is dependent on the mercy of the Supreme Lord, but when one forgets his relation with the Lord, he becomes dependent on the conditions of material nature. Renunciation means renouncing one's dependence on the conditions of material nature and thus becoming completely dependent on the mercy of the Lord. Ahmad Bh Gavatam 1.18. 22. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord has clearly promised that his devotees are never to be vanquished, and he behaves according to the quality or degree of the devotional service rendered by the devotees. Here the word Ananya V8 Manam is significant. The Pandavas were % dependent on the protection of the Lord, although they were all great warriors themselves. But the Lord neglects even the greatest warriors and also vanquishes them in no time. When the Lord saw that there was no time for the Pandavas to counteract the Brahmastra of Avatham, he took up his weapon even at the risk of breaking his own vow. Ahmad Bh Gavatam 1.8. 13.